Hey everybody, welcome to episode 87 of Tactical Crouch. I am KickedTripod, joined of course by Yiska and Volamel. We're all coming off an Overwatch League hangover. And I feel like it's like a hangover from like the cheapest peppermint schnapps shots ever.
Ew.
Like, you know, like there's some like not good hangovers, but you're like, at least my alcohol wasn't, it's like, I feel like we just got done drinking bottled to barrel alcohol for like the past 48 hours. the Overwatch this past weekend was something else.
Yeah. Something. This is the adjective I would use.
But
to be fair, it felt like you got like top of the line scotch in Seoul and then you mixed it with Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Just like
It's like cherry Kool-Aid and yeah, like peppermint schnapps would be a good cocktail. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe that's a brainchild of random openings, is just, you know, comparing the weekend to a made up cocktail and then giving it a name.
let's do that. We should we already have to do.
I don't drink enough.
Yiska,
I'll go with it.
We have to get a German word of the week based on last week's games. So
it was a little Laubom,
to think about it.
Laubom?
Yeah, it was. I'll think about it over the
All right.
episode. Let's see
We'll
how
close it out on it.
what the synthesis of this episode is when it's all said and done, and I'll
Fair enough.
try to say something German.
Before we get started, big thank you to our patron producers: Battlecrab, Pin Lotion, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Pork Chop, Sammy, Kasha67, Coochie Kopi, Salsa Boy 91, and Shara. Thanks for supporting the show. If you like the show and want to support, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch, or you can subscribe right here. Big thank you to Coppers with 2 Z's for subscribing. And sorry I missed it before the show. So making it up to you and making it permanent on the air. You got it. We don't normally do that. It should feel very special. Should be a very special moment. We'll give you a round of applause too. Look at that. I am a very generous
God?
person. Yeah, I'm a generous God. What can I say?
Benevolence be upon you.
It's true. We're gonna get started though. There's a lot to talk about this week. We originally were supposed to have 16 matches, right? We ended up having
8 a day.
7 of them cancel.
Yep.
And one edit.
And then one added. So it was a lot to like kind of keep up with. So the first thing that we should probably talk about is NYXL just kind of backing away temporarily from competition in general during coronavirus. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Seems like they're the only team that's officially doing it. Like, we've got London and Vancouver who are kind of taking a hiatus as they relocate back to Seoul.
Yes.
But as far as we know, NYXL isn't doing anything like that. They're just like, hey, while this coronavirus thing plays out, we're just going to step away from competition so we have something to blame on this season.
I think I've like the thing is, I think they have very smart people in NYXL.
Mm-hmm.
And if the risk management or risk assessment is that it's too unsafe to keep players in their respective apartments in New York, and with the, of course, like nuts situation that they have over there, and it feels more safe for them to expose them initially to like the airports and whatnot, even though you can probably accurately or properly protect them with like gear and whatnot on the flight, then that's probably a better solution for them, like to relocate them. Now, I'm not sure what the press release said, if it was more like we're just not playing at the moment, or if it mentioned a relocation. Because like that entire team is South Korean, so they might, right? Like and I actually don't know.
I don't know if there was an accompanying press release, but the tweet did not mention any of that as far as I know. It's just let me just double check and make sure.
I think in general, my two assumptions were either NYXL is not set to play from player apartments just yet, so they need time, or they are relocating. One of the two.
Yes,
the tweet.
So the tweet is, as the state of New York continues to mandate that all non-essential workers remain at home, the NYXL will temporarily be stepping back from playing matches in the Overwatch League. We're continuing to make all efforts to return to competition as soon as possible. We'll continue to create incredible ways for our fans, the best in the world, to connect with our players digitally during this time as they represent our city proudly and demonstrate the resilience it is known for.
Yeah. I think like that's fair, especially if you don't have the setup to support players playing from home, and they don't have the internet connections. Like, but like they are talking about cameras and whatnot. Like, if you don't have the setup there, the PCs, the internet connection speeds to not only host Overwatch but also like potential video feeds or whatever, then fair enough. Like that's just like I'm not mad at anyone at the moment.
No,
based on competitive integrity, based on decisions to prioritize their people's health over playing. You know what we Germans call it the most beautiful irrelevant thing in the world. Football. That is kind of like how I think about Overwatch for myself, right? Like that's just like. If we still can still play and make everyone stay a little bit better, especially on the weekends, fair enough. If that's not possible for everyone, that's okay too.
So what I haven't seen though is if these matches that they miss, are these getting rescheduled or are they being forfeited?
Oh, I would imagine it's just going to be rescheduled.
Rescheduled?
They're going to have to make them up somehow once, they get back online or they, finish relocating. One of the two. I don't think. I think if it continues and more teams are looking at relocating, there might have to be some forfeitures or the season has to be extended. But there again, I see the former happening more so than the latter. But again, everything is kind of in flux. The schedule is very fluid. I think the league is working really well with the teams to be able to do this and not hold them necessarily at fault for something that really isn't their fault. Sure. They want to try and keep everybody safe, and that's really commendable. As much as again, we like to give them a hard time on the show and try to criticize them, and to be fair, it's mostly true. It's fair to give them kudos where they deserve it, and I think they're trying to handle this the best they can. Same with the production staff, and it's a weird time to be alive. It's a weird time to try and run a multi-million-dollar or esports league. So best of luck to them. It's not easy.
Yeah, it is not. I think what anyone had envisioned this season being.
Nope. Not at all.
That's not the understatement of the episode. I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just rolling with it the best we can, staying up until 4 a.m., waking back up at 10 a.m.
4 p.m.
Yeah, and like watching more matches. It was kind of nuts. Yeah. Lots going on. But 7 matches canceled this week. We got some new ones. Before we talk about last week, though, let's take a few minutes. We're not going to be doing a preview episode this week, more than likely, because we're not going to know which teams are playing. Yeah. But we do want to talk about the hero bands, which is Wrecking Ball, May, McCree, and Brigitte. I know you guys have very different philosophies to approaching
how to do this.
How to approach discussing these here. Yiska, I want you to go first. What are your thoughts on the hero bands for this coming week?
The hero bands themselves are sort of interesting in the sense that I think they were very different from the ones, or like in the like we haven't had double picks yet, right? And what's
Hasn't
also
McCree been
more
banned twice? Or
This
maybe
is
another.
the
That could be the
second
case.
time that McCree
yes,
has
that
been
could be the case. Yeah, I think like McCree isn't a hero that hard forces an archetype though. So in that regard, like the May ban feels fresh. Even though we'll have to see how that. I mean, she didn't have the biggest play rate, right? In this week. What else was banned? Wrecking Ball.
Was it Wrecking?
Brig and Wrecking. Yeah. Unlockers for like teams like Chengdu. We'll maybe see some Winston. I'm actually looking like if there's dive, and I think some teams might try. Then I'm looking forward to Winston because it's just like one of the most fun heroes to observe for me. And then Brig. Like honestly, like it's interesting that nobody really went like, oh yes, Brig ban, yeah. At least not that heavily, because like I feel like that hero has been moved into a less obnoxious version of itself, where it's like it's actually hilarious that Brig doesn't contain Tracer anymore. It empowers Tracer.
Yeah.
Right. So
she's an enabler.
That to me is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a fun change. And I think you're right. Like if I had to give my take, it would probably be dive. But there again, going back to what I was originally talking about with hero pools in general, I think the way you beat this system is to pick an archetype, let's say an archetype being like a very general strategy, like a dive, like a bunker, something that identifies you as a team, which I think will be a positive, hopefully, fingers crossed, from hero pools, is that teams are forced to pick an identity if they want to succeed.
Yeah. What do you, so I get that. I like that. But Yiska, from like now until then, like is this something that you think teams can actually prepare really well for? Like how do teams, as far as you understand it and what you can tell us, how are teams like preparing when you see such like drastic meta shifts week after week?
So with the current regions, like, okay, imagine. So we have 3 regions right now that can only scrim against each other based on ping, because nobody's going to eat the ping in terms of like coast to coast or like to Asia, right? Like there's no Asian team scrimming like East Coast, right? We can assume that isn't the case. So then that means you're limited in the teams you're scrimming already. And some of the teams that are theoretically in your ping region, you have to play against that following weekend. So that then almost cuts the pool in half again. Or not in half, but like eliminates at most 2 teams of the, depending on your region, like six Overwatch League teams. So you got 4, of which one you are. So then you hope the other 3 got a really good read on the meta very early in the week. If not, and you find, and of course, like your scrims are booked weeks in advance in terms of how that works, right? Like, so, like you cannot even really engineer what you're scrimming against or what kind of strategies you're exposed to, right? Because you just don't know all the eventualities this far ahead. So basically what happens, you hit the scrim service, you have probably like your coaches just like ground out the entire night after the hero bans, so you can have productive practice on Monday. You sit down on Monday, you play, someone's playing something into you. If you're lucky, you got a working comp that beats a lot of scrims, or someone else plays something into you and you just adopt it immediately and like go through the week. If on Friday someone comes along that, again, someone you booked 4 weeks ago, and just goes like, well, like, that comp that you've been practicing since Monday, it's actually kind of garbage against us, our take, and we're just stomping you, then you either have the option to say, we're adapting this and playing this terribly, or we're going to stay on our comp, have it more practiced, and pray to the luck lords that that our opposition hasn't figured out either a counter or that specific comp. Because there's theoretically also the possibility that there's more than one counter to my comp.
Yep.
I then sit down on Saturday on the server, connect, walk out of the room. Someone might scout. You see the comp. You go, guess I've never seen that before. Let's see how the first team fight goes. That's rough, bro. Okay.
Right
Let's
into
see
the mic,
the sub map. Let's my bad. Let's see the sub map. Oh, damn. Well, it's control. Let's see on escort. Okay, dude, we're kind of boned. Like, that's the weekend. Just take your hard head. Just walk out of there, and like that's your weekend. That's Overwatch under 1 week hero pools.
Yep.
And there's no room to argue here. This is basically what every coach tells me. If you think a team sits down on the server after map 2 and goes like, well, theoretically, and then if you then like put someone on this hero, and then you're looking exactly like the clown circus that San Francisco Shock was this weekend. You walk into this comp, you lose. Done. Next.
Or you adapt it, throw away the weeks of practice that you've put into, the former, and wing it. Which is neither good. That's not a good decision either, right? So it's very difficult to be able to say anything but just, unlucky. I guess we'll go next week and try to, get ahead of the curve.
That is another unfortunate reality that I had to find out. I'm like, okay, so the comp that everyone scrimmed for months before the season, and now like, even if it was feasible now, the decay, the knowledge decay and the skill decay on these particular heroes in that particular comp is nutty. Suddenly everyone forgot how to play that comp. Everyone looked garbage on it. It's nuts. Like, again, Overwatch is like, I don't know if people realize how coaches, how micromanaged movements are, how pre-planned rotations usually are, how positioning usually is, from sidelines for your flex supports to specific positioning of your tank shield angles and whatnot. It is all planned. If you don't do that, you are rolling the dice. Simple as that. That's Overwatch. Always has been, always will be. And the more we sail against the grain, we'll have issues and execution. That's how it is.
Again, I it's weird for me to be the optimist here, but I do think, teams will get better at adapting to this. I don't think this will solidify teams. It won't be as stable as the seasons past, but I do think teams will get better at trying to figure out what they should do on the week and how to approach the game with hero pools. And I'm of the opinion that it is, picking or forced to pick an identity, and running with that and trying to facilitate that identity as best they can. And then having like a side color, like for any of the Magic the Gathering players out there, it's about picking like a color and then splashing a color. If that week, maybe white's just really bad. Maybe blue's bad this week. So we need an extra color to fall back on. It's not our main color. It's not our main identity, but at least we have something to fall back on. I think that's the game as it stands right now. I think it gets a whole lot more diverse. I think that's what the goal of hero pools wants to be. If you give them more time to experiment, to be able to test things and say, yes, this is good, or no, this is bad. More time is needed to facilitate the goal that hero pools wants to facilitate. And I think that is the most optimistic take that I've got today. So you got your one. No pooping on hero pools, guys. I got you.
That's the thing about colors, isn't it? Like when you mix enough colors, it eventually just turns shit color.
And that's what we got. We have too many.
Like it's always brown. It always says brown. It's always going to be garbage. Like every game this weekend, every game was bad. Not a single game was a good game.
It was interesting to see teams.
Define your scope on that. A garbage game, because I know the immediate response is going to be, I enjoyed this week's games.
That's fine.
I had a lot of fun, and so they're tying their enjoyment of the games to good Overwatch. So can you qualify what is good or bad Overwatch in this respect? Because I don't want you to get smacked on it and people just don't take your point because they just aren't willing to understand it.
Yeah, it's fair. Like their definition of good Overwatch might be very different than mine. For me, good Overwatch is when teams meet on even playground and have a dance off to decide who wins the match. And like while they're sort of like basically the feel for great Overwatch for me is like two teams dancing around each other, like like front lines sort of clear, dive, counter dive, whatever it is, but like a sort of coherence is like I understand where the coherence comes from, and they have some pre-agreed sort of frameworks where it happens. Like good is really more a feeling to me. For instance, good is, or I have to say great or amazing is Shock against Titans in stage 2. Yep. That's a dance between teams. Chengdu is 2 human centipedes mud fighting. It's not enjoyable to me. There's no rhyme or reason. It's like unplanned, only heuristics, only like impulsive reactions that highlight nothing but players making it up on the go, which is a skill set which you're welcome to enjoy, and to a degree I also do, but coach impact is very low in that regard. Strategical depth is very low. Also, it's absolutely unwatchable for me because like things are happening here. Here's the flank. Like there's no focus to any of the fights. You like nobody can tell me that they realistically always understood where at that very moment Jinmu was hovering around or what specific goal he was chasing. No, they like Chengdu excels at dragging people down like in confusion, which is you may do that. Do whatever has the highest win rate. Like that's
the
fine.
name of the game, right? Is winning.
Yes.
Like you need to win, and that's fine. But it is a problem of the game that this works.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
Not a problem of the game necessarily, but of the tournament system that we're playing under, which is 1 week hero pools.
Yes.
All right. I accept your answer. You have qualified good Overwatch, so now nobody can go off on a tangent. Definitely, explain why you disagree with it. That's fine. We get it. More than likely, we understand. It's entertaining to watch. It's fresh every week. I compare it a lot to I wrestled in high school, and so like you compare like high school wrestling or even just like traditional like Olympic wrestling compared to like WWE Raw, where not to say that there's no talent in what is being done in WWE Raw, but it's very different, right? Yeah. It's
2 different things.
It's a lot of memorization. It's a lot of acting. It's a lot of, but it's not like, I don't think you'd call it necessarily as much of a dance, and don't take that metaphor too far, YouTube guy.
Yeah.
But like, hopefully you understand the spirit of what I'm saying in the sense that it's almost kind of like regular wrestling. I think like Olympic wrestling can be really boring to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It really can. I don't understand it. I don't get all the names of these holds. I just want to see a dude get powerbombed through a chair onto a table from 25 feet.
I want to see people thrown off Hell in a Cell in 2004, and I want to see people put through tables. That's there's a part of my brain that wants that as well. But I also want really cool and, intricate hand fighting and, posturing and figuring out, what exactly each of these opponents are trying to do and seeing that acted upon each other and how each opponent adapts. It's tough to do that right now. And I think hero pools on a 1 week turnaround affects the product of Overwatch as a whole. It's hard to see storylines when everything is some shade of brown.
Yeah. I'll also say, and it seemed like I scapegoated Chengdu too much. It's like, I think a match like Chengdu is much more fun in the context of other games looking better. Because let's be honest, they were in the middle of a shit sandwich in terms of like where they played. Like watching that Guangzhou against Hangzhou game is just like, I knew immediately when they swished the Diva bomb into the pool. It was like, okay, someone put the lid up and just shit into the toilet, didn't they? Yeah. So clean in.
Happens,
no
man.
Stufentoilette.
Have we done that one as German word of the week?
No, I don't think so.
Stufentoilette? Yeah. The what is it? The perch toilet? I don't know. I can't think of the word.
It's like we have a step in the toilet.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like a plate, so to speak, where you get to see your efforts. You get to be proud of it. You get to check if you're healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Best shape and all.
Yeah.
Yep.
No blood.
No, none of that.
Let's let's go on before we
get demonetized. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and by the way, again, just like we had someone in the chat who's actually a former professional wrestler. I'm not saying what professional wrestlers do isn't difficult or
isn't
takes
dangerous,
less skill, isn't dangerous.
Yeah.
Most of them come from a wrestling background to begin with, or some sort of MMA martial arts background. Anyways, that's not. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
WWE is largely an entertainment thing where most people, if you like Olympic wrestling or something like that, or even let's just use high school wrestling, right? You're going there to support your school
in a competition,
your family member or something else. You're not exactly going there because wrestling is all like really, really interesting to watch, especially on the face of it.
One is solely an entertainment product, to John's point, and the other one is a strict competition of stuff that isn't really for the casual person. It's, have you experienced this? Do you know what you're watching? If not, then maybe you're just there to cheer on your college friend or your boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other in some instances, and that's fine too. Just two different things.
Anyways, I'm done qualifying the metaphor, unless
yeah. No, there's one thing, and that is a very fair argument that like we didn't actually have 1 week hero pools with this hero pool.
That's true.
The counter to this is, however, is that a lot of teams assumed that last week's matches would be played, and they never scrimmed on the meta if they hadn't had planned matches for this specific meta. Now, this doesn't apply to Shock, of course. Like, they are exempt from that because they would have played last week, should have scrimmed for that specific meta and whatnot. But it also contributes to them probably not finding the quality scrims because some teams just decided, because we're not playing next week, let's play something else, and then maybe we get lucky and play the exact bands that are might happen.
That's a great point.
And it now also got a little bit more predictable because of the waiting, right? Like you had a better probabilistic prediction power, if you want, to sort of take a guess what would have been this week's meta in terms of if last week's matches had started. So fair shout. That actually, though, makes it worse in the sense that, yes, there were teams that absolutely practiced 3 weeks of this meta through. And I think we also saw those overperform. But that just means every team that was bad or many teams that were bad are just the norm now because they only had 1 week to practice on a specific meta. And if you're shocked by that level of play, then that will shock you again next week.
Yep. One extra thing to that. I hope that Blizzard learns from this, week, we'll call it week 8 to week 6, these in these trying times, that communication with your teams in your league on exactly what you're planning is imperative. And hopefully that doesn't happen again if we do indeed have to skip a week and, the teams and players have to leave it up to chance on exactly what's being banned, what's being run, what's happening. Hopefully that doesn't ever happen again, because I can't imagine, like, hero pools in general is probably the single hardest and most stressful thing a coach has to deal with, and then not knowing what exactly is going on is probably number 2. So, heart goes out to them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about this last week's matches. Let's recap a little bit. Sure. We're going to start with the big one. We're going to get there right away. And San Francisco Shock, I think, threw us a curveball this week and started off 0-2 in post-hero pools, losing to the LA Gladiators and the LA Valiant. You can look up at the win percentages right there, and you see San Francisco Shock second to last in the Pacific teams right now, which, to be fair, nobody has played more than 4 matches on that side, whereas almost everybody in Atlantic has played 6. Shock have played 3, but they are 1-2, third to last, with a 0.385 map win percentage. So we saw a lot, I think, from Shock, and I personally am not good enough to understand how much was strategic failures and how much was, holy crap, let's try a different look and just hope that this works or this throws a curveball, kind of like what we maybe saw Vancouver do a little bit in week 1, where it's like, you know what, our original plan isn't working. Let's just put Haxall on Genji and see how far it takes us. And they did it, and it was great. So, Joe, I mean, what's your take on this one? San Francisco Shock, 0-2, strategic blunder. Was it what in your mind happened here?
I think it played out similarly to how I expected. I didn't expect Shock to lose versus these teams, these caliber of teams. But I do think this team has an inherent problem that they have to figure out, and that is identifying what they want to be. In the past, they've practiced a game that is about refinement. Now it is about identification and what color you want to buy into. Where are you going to buy in? Shock is one of those teams that has to figure that out, or they're constantly going to be playing guesswork. And so far, it hasn't been great. When you're losing to Valiant as the 2019 defending champions, not a good look, right? Like, that's not a slight 100%. That as well, to Valiant's credit, like, they're working understaffed at the moment, and we'll get to my opinion on where Shock might also be failing. But in general, the Valiant, no slight to them, are not a title contender this year. At least were not viewed to be as such going into the season. Hero pools maybe might change that for everybody. Who knows? To the coaching staff's credit, it seemed like somebody was taking an off week. It did not feel like the Shock of old, but maybe there again, it's about figuring out what to do with hero pools. It was very suspect to me when watching this game and how many rotations there were, with how much, role fluidity there was. To me, that did not seem very structured. That seemed very, this week is not great for us. I don't know why. Something seems wrong with Shock this week. So they tried to do the best they could, whether it was, we have a really bad read, whether somebody's sick, and trying to figure that out. So it was not good. I'm smelling something. I smell fire. I think something's happening with Shock. I have not a clue what that is, but this is not the same team. This is not the same team that won last year, that was, good at refining. They have to kind of mentally rebuild how they want to play this game because it is just drastically different. They have to figure out how to be the best in this system, and I think that's going to take time. And that's why I said what I said last week in regards to Shock and Seoul.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Yiska, what's your thoughts on, like, I mean, I think we saw Sinatra play. He played both tank and DPS. I think we saw Rascal in as support. Do I remember that correctly? You played the Brig. We saw a lot of different Shock players playing outside of their regular roles. What? Like, so do you think that was pre-planned and intentional from practice and scrims?
Some of it was. I think like they publicly commented on running that Zarya Doom a lot and having success in scrims with it. So I think that was planned. It would be interesting. I don't think anyone has as widespread, like pre-planned rosters for every single map to that degree. I don't think anyone planned. So to me, also judging from the level of play, it looked to me like they were taken off guard with their composition not working. They then tried to amend that in some way and couldn't figure out anything in either series. And this, like, if you think about it, it also says more to the theory of, like, it's requiring, like, having a week's worth of practice advantage is huge. Like, Shock played that, okay, it's fine. If you lose against the Gladiators, it's no shame. Mm-hmm. But you see how long it takes to then adapt, that they still got smashed by the Valiant as well. Yep. Because a day is simply not enough to adapt, even if you were to copy. And then even if you have the most skilled team in the world, if we're being honest, like pound for pound, they are definitely up there as well. I know there were some mentions of like there being like behind the scenes issues going on. I personally don't think, like, if John Galt is thinking about the same thing I'm thinking about, I don't know if that would actually necessarily impact the Shock as much in that regard. So I don't think that. Maybe I just don't know. That's very possible that he has information that I'm not privy to. So, but yeah, it's to me, this is just hero pools.
Yeah,
until further proven otherwise.
Well, I think for Shock, it's hero pools, and they are a slow builder. They're a team that comes to the fight a little cold and progress as the fight goes on. They want to refine things. That's how this team has been built. And now they kind of have to restructure to be able to be quick, to be able to be fluid, and to adapt. So it's not a good look for Shock. Hopefully they can get it together, but I'm not so sure. A lot of dice work, a lot of guesswork to be had, and it's not easy.
Towards Skybeam's comment saying, yo, come on, Val swapped comps from day 1 to day 2 and did fine. If that is actually a case and they completely reworked the entire strategy within 1 day, fair play, I think they just already had an idea what was going to be required into specific strategies.
Yep. That easily could be a team that practiced a number of different compositions where Shock tried to identify what was the best and then tried to be the best at the best thing. Whereas Valiant practiced a variety of different things, and it's not necessarily fair to just paint everybody with a broad brush, as all 20 teams are trying to figure out what's the best way to approach this for their team and in general. So you're going to see things like this happen. You're going to see teams that, unequivocally, we all thought Shock was going to be the best team. And lo and behold, it's not necessarily true.
I also don't want to downplay the efforts of Valiant's players, because, like, they definitely had standout performances individually as well. Like that team is actually like once again massively overperforming over the expectations we had of them in the preseason, and they keep being slimmed down and they keep convincing. Yep. And it's miraculous, but also a testament towards the company, or not company, but team culture that Packin has built over there.
100%.
And the fact that they are so resilient to all these honestly huge drawbacks. Like 2 coaches is unbelievable in the context of, like, they are legitimately contenders teams with more, right? Like, or were at least.
And just real fast, not to completely derail you, it's not necessarily that Shock didn't consider another option when looking at like the Zarya Dive Doomfist compositions. It's about what they've practiced and the time put in versus a possibly better solution. It's very difficult to argue that sacrificing all of the work you put in last week is worth just playing what everybody else is playing. You have no idea why they're playing it. You have it's not necessarily you have no idea why. You have a very lower understanding of the composition, let's say, and just sacrificing a week's worth of competition practice isn't necessarily worth it all the time. I doubt that they didn't consider it. They just figured this is what the best thing is, so let's get really good at what the best thing is. Oh crap, we're wrong because the scrim partners didn't play it, or they haven't seen it, or they didn't expect it. Again, a lot of just unlucky. Sometimes you just don't see what everybody else is playing on the other half of the world or the other side of the continent, and you get caught off guard and you get caught.
Yeah,
this game has quickly become a puncher. Anybody has a puncher's chance. You could just identify it early and you're out to the races. Like, you're just that far ahead that nobody can stop you, and you might be a middle of the pack team and you might be beating last year's champion. That can happen right now.
Yeah. You might actually also legitimately beat the, on average, if we had like a truth machine, best average hero pool. Because it's like nobody's like, if you look at their performance graph, nobody's like this or has like, a flat curve. Everyone's like,
it's the stock market right now.
And then some others, like the values
not like
aren't
right
as
now,
bad.
right now.
No,
right now it's
but
pretty...
like about a week ago. Just up and down and up and down and up and down. It's you don't know exactly what to. There's not going to be a clear like stratification until much later. And even then, again, fingers crossed. Hopefully, Blizzard like adds in a couple more weeks to these hero pools. That'll come sooner. But if we leave it 1 week hero pools, it's going to take a long time. It might take till season 2 for teams to be clearly stratified that know what they want to do with hero pools with the team that they've crafted. It could just be random dice rolls on these matches for a long time, guys.
It's also like, if people are interested as to the mechanics of why that is the case, maybe look into like some papers on research on a special skill. Like, for instance, someone that is an archer is really not, like, a professional archer is really not that much better than a hobbyist on unknown ranges, like ranges that they never shoot at. Sure. Like an Olympic archer is a specialist in hitting a target at a specific range. And then as soon as you start moving the targets, their performance drops significantly. And then they need a little bit of time to grind into that thing. Is there such a person that shoots reasonably well on all ranges? I think there are some that are better at it. I think there's nobody that is very good at it, to the point where they could be contesting even for Olympic ranges, right? So, like you might like that type of, like, just like, oh, this guy can shoot everyone on every range, like close range, like long range. But it's really hard as humans to build up that versatility and be prepared for everything that reality could throw at you and everything that Overwatch can throw at you. It's like the complexity of this game, it's really hard to grasp, I think, unless really explored and also experienced through the dread of being an Overwatch League coach. Like,
yeah, no, that's a good point. Let's talk about the Seoul Dynasty though. So I think if anyone had a bonkers week this week, the Seoul Dynasty would definitely have to be one of them. They go 2-0. They don't drop a map. They right?
Yeah,
Or am
3-0.
I misremembering?
3-0
Yeah, they're both
Valiant,
3-0s.
3-0 Glads.
yeah.
Or did they draw a map?
I think they did draw versus Glads.
I think they drew
the
one. I was like,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
looking at the map win percentage and like that should be one then.
Yeah,
So they drew a map, but they didn't drop a map.
That's true.
So and it wasn't against the worst teams either. So they beat the Valiant, who we just got done praising for beating Seoul, and then they beat the Gladiators. Or sorry, we just praised for beating Shock, and then the Gladiators were also the team who beat Shock. So they basically beat both teams that beat the Shock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your boy Yiska, I think
he's back, or he was never left. If we're being honest, he was always there, and I hope we
know that for sure.
I mean,
though?
he was okay in playoffs. He wasn't transcendental. What I was more happy about was to see that gesture actually popped.
Yeah,
that gave me confidence in this team.
I mean, his race has been good. I don't know why. His Ryan is not. Don't get me wrong, but 1 out of the three of one, like it's pretty good. Yeah, you have one dud hero, but you also have another main tank to fall back on. So
yeah.
Team's sick. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Team
also the back line
get out.
Look,
Bedosian
solid.
Solid.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sweet team. And come on, make your point.
Should have believed me. Should have believed me.
Say the word.
I said Seoul beat Shock last week, and now with this, that they're the best team at the moment. They are number one.
They are the
Shock,
Tiger Kings.
They are the Tiger King. They are Joe Exotic.
Did you finish it, Yiska?
Yes, I did. It was insane.
Is it not insane, like I feel like
it's
this
the most
is
insane thing.
I think just how Germans view America in general.
Oh yeah, that is the personification of how Yiska views America in general.
Yeah.
Just slap a couple like American flags and like the national anthem, and you got it.
I mean, the fact that this is even possible is insane to me. It's not really that I think this is the average, but the fact that it is possible is insane.
Anything.
How can someone have
maybe
like 140 tigers by himself? Like, just like, how is that possible? How can someone have a tiger, bro? Like,
you can go like, did you hear? It's like $2,000. They're like, how much does it cost to get a tiger? It's like about $2,000.
Yo, like
my dog costs more than that.
Yeah.
My dog costs more than that.
Like so many people with like Bengals and stuff where they pay like $5,000 for a cat.
Mm-hmm.
They just like buy a liger for $2,500. Like, what is going on? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. All right. Anyways,
solar crazy.
It wouldn't.
Solar very, very good.
It wouldn't be March 2020 if we didn't discuss Tiger King in some way or another.
True.
So back to Seoul Dynasty. You're right. They did look great. They look pretty
Fantastic.
dominant.
Yes.
I think this is what a lot of people have been wanting to see from Seoul. Honestly, all the way back from season 1.
Yes. This is the team that we were promised. It's unfortunate because I think they could really legitimately be the best in a refinement meta rather than like if we were just take away hero pools. I think they could actually like sit among the top teams like without question. They have the firepower, they have the coaching staff, and that's been shown with hero pools. It's just a shame that we don't see a number of other high quality teams that they can pair up against and really see them tested. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm missing with hero pools is like two like absolute titans. Just we understand how to play this in our own unique ways, and we're just gonna run at each other and adapt on the fly. Like to what Yiska was saying, like stage 2 of 2019 finals was beautiful. That was art personified. I want to see Seoul in that type of match. I think they would really like sparks would fly. Like that is a gorgeous, like a Seoul shock grand final, best of 7. Like you give them 3-5 months to figure out what they're playing and what the meta is, and I think you have a beautiful, beautiful match that everybody can appreciate. I think it's just the state of the game at the moment. I don't think hero pools need this. Again, somehow shoehorning hero pools into every discussion, but yeah, Seoul's the best team at the moment. No, I'm still not sold on Titans. They've played one match. I think they've clearly identified what they want to do. I think they've picked a color, which is a great showing for me. But I need to see more from them before I can definitively say like they're super high up. I think they're good. I just don't know that they're great. So on the other hand, fantastic team.
So I think one player who I think had a lot of question marks around him was Fitz. Not a lot of people knew what to expect from Fitz. Maybe hadn't seen him before. What was your thoughts on how he and Prophet played together?
Fantastic. Looking at him, even going back to like Going Water S, like his was it Open Division Korean team?
Mm-hmm.
Great team, great player, good. Felt more of a facilitator rather than like a carry threat, and he's now shown to be a carry threat. We saw him a little bit last year, but Goats was hard to kind of push individuals forward, and Scrimbucks said otherwise. So I was excited to see him, in a more punchy role, and he looks absolutely fantastic.
Yep,
absolutely. Just, yeah, I said it kind of not ironically, but half-heartedly that this team has like the trait. If you were to pull like another card game reference, like you're pulling a trait off of the London Spitfire and giving it to Seoul with Prophet and Gesture. And now this is a trio. I think you could say that Fitz Prophet Gesture is now like something to be reckoned with. I think if you keep those three together, you've got a scary, scary core that you could put into any team and just instantly push them up by nature of having them within the team. Absolutely. Like that's tough to beat. Like not a lot of teams can confidently say, I can go toe to toe with Prophet. Okay, now you have to go toe to toe with Fitz, and then you have to go toe to toe with Gesture. A very elite few teams can do that, or can confidently say they can.
And you got to catch him on the right meta, right? Like some Rhino Risa stuff or like that. But even then, like theoretically, Soul can cover that as well, right?
Yeah.
Then it's not Gesture, probably. I would think. But like, for instance, I hope they get a bunch of matches next weekend, like 2 matches. Just like,
I want to see more of this team. Yeah, that's exciting.
Because if we actually think this is Winston, and that once again, I currently don't have access to a coin. Otherwise, I would tell you what's being played next weekend. But if it actually turns out to be Winston, oh my God, I want give me some Vancouver against Seoul.
Yeah, double dive. I want to see Hoxall, run it down against Prophet again. Go back and watch Apex Season 4 finals. That was hype.
Yeah. This man is about to pull a Genji and just like finish your dreams.
You think he's good at one thing and then he just pulls something out he hasn't shown all season and then just sets a record. He's that type of player. Prophet is the best player.
Imagine if he also has a Doom just randomly.
He probably does. Like what would that? He's shown constantly that he can just pick up things, not necessarily pick up things, but just show things that he hasn't had to show before, and just it's just one of the better ones. It's just above average, if not like A tier. It may not be S tier, but compare that to like the rest of his heroes, it's just like, what can't this kid do?
Dude, I'm not taking debates. If Seoul actually crushes the season and at least goes far in playoff, he's the GOAT, bro.
He's over. Yeah. It's clear.
Discussion over. Yeah.
You don't go from leveling up with GC Busan, dominating APAC, coming into the league, doing well at least stage 1 in season 1, winning season 1, blundering for a number of reasons in season 2, and then coming back on a new
bad team. Individually though.
Never. Not in any of those instances was he individually at fault. It was always tertiary problems.
Yeah.
And he's dragging Gesture along for the ride. God bless him. He's he's the lackey.
That's a bro.
But he's the
Get
GOAT.
yourself a Prophet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could do a weekly show, Yiska, called Not Prophet's Fault, where you could just talk about
and it wouldn't be.
I would agree with you, but I would also think it would be really funny. You could just capitalize on the your love for profit.
I could make a website and call it last time since it was Profit's fault, and would just like tick up from his birthday, like 20 years ago.
Fair enough. So I do want to talk about one player on the Gladiators before we go on. This is a team that did play both the Shock and Seoul. They beat the Shock, and then they lose to Seoul, but that player would be Mirror. We largely saw Birdring and Mirror play the DPS duo. We did see Jaru, I believe, on 1 or 2 maps.
Full Sky mostly.
Yeah, and so, but what's your thoughts so far on Mirror and kind of coming into that? I think we had a lot of questions about the DPS spots on the LA Gladiators, right? We're like, Birdring is like shown that he can play well, but he hasn't in a long time. We don't know if we can catch any flair from that. Mirror, I believe a lot of the conversation revolved around, I don't really know if he is Overwatch League caliber, how good he is going to be on Heroes on an Overwatch League stage. So how did you think that he played this weekend?
I think it's not fair, and this is going to carry a lot of like bad connotation. I think he's a fantastic Doomfist. I need to see more. So far, I like it. I like what I'm seeing from this team. I 100% believe that the coaching staff is just insanely capable at, building these players up. And I'm glad that Birdring still has gas in the tank. Again, first ballot Hall of Fame, whenever that starts, because this kid has been, S tier for a majority of his career. You don't go from being, a Kongdu staple to being a Gladiators like redemption story. Like that's impressive in and of itself, and being able to compete against some of the best, DPS in the world, that's fantastic. Mirror, on the other hand, I like what I'm seeing right now. I want to see more. I need to see more before I can definitively say, yeah, he is Rookie of the Year. Yeah, he's this. Yeah, he's that. I apparently, again, information that I gleaned after power rankings, has a very strong Doomfist. What did we see him play most of the time? A lot of strong Doomfist. That's great. He can compete among some of the best in the world at that one hero. I want to see a little bit more. I want to see exactly his depth. I want to see a more full picture before we completely just, buy all the Mirror stock. So far, so good. I'm glad to be wrong with Gladiators. Very skeptical on my end on if this team was going to perform or not. Again, before hero pools, so, I'll defend myself a little bit, but, glad to be wrong. Glad to be wrong about Mirror. Glad to be wrong about Birdring. I'm happy that the purple team gets the W.
Yeah, pretty much the same from here. Like, Mirror definitely surprised me. Didn't have him on my consideration list for Rookie of the Year. Has shown pretty sweet versatility as well on the heroes he can pop off on. Birdring as well seems to be like back. It's also a testament to just like a great coaching staff. And I said it on during the watch time. Like, I think this is the time where we realize that like stacked coaching staffs actually are supposed to be reckoned with. Because like, think about how Shock is. That team basically had at least three people with head coaching chops and qualities. Yeah. Game understanding, like
player management,
everything, like the full shebang, like 9K, Young Buck, and Krusty, right? So then, like, at least one of them splits off, and then now you look at Gladiators, they have a sick coaching staff. The pay proven to be able to always field some of the best teams in the Overwatch leagues so far, also prior to that. Then you got Curry Shot, of course, like coach of the Mayhem Academy, just like great contenders coach, then goes to Guangzhou. Definitely the impact strategically is almost immediately felt there. Then you got Face, who who coached Talon, great showing at the Atlantic Showdown. It's just like Faustus, yes, like great showing with Angry Titans. In EU contenders. Like these are either contenders winning coaches or coaches from teams that did amazingly well in contenders. And they just come together and form like this elite coaching staff. I think we will eventually come to understand as elite. And I think all of them also could be head coaches somewhere else in the league.
Yep.
And
I think they
the
probably
pay
will
did very well to get everyone into this one roster, and he like cornered the talent in that regard, and it seems to be showing. And like some of the litmus tests are, how does Mirror adapt to the other rosters? Is their performance an upwards trajectory for Jaru? Can Bertring hold his amazing form? What about how's the integration with OG going? If this all works, they are the full package. These are the litmus tests, and then I'm ready to say they're the best, possibly the best coaching staff in.
I mean, so far, have they not checked all those boxes?
Yeah.
Now here's a weird, kind of hot take. Okay, ready? DePay has shown that he has an eye. He always surrounds himself, and that's not a backhanded compliment. He is good, right? Like he has proven time and time again that he can do a lot with very little. He might not have the best team, but he can make them great. He might not have the most resources, in regards to what happened in the offseason, but he can coerce a lot of some of the best coaches to come, get solid players, and make this team great. How is that not exactly what the Boston Uprising need? I want DePay to be the GM of the Boston Uprising. That's the take. I think you see that team turn around and become at least mid-pack with overnight.
Yeah, they would, but there's virtually no chance they can pay him enough.
DPay needs to get depaid.
Yeah, 100%. Like you pay that boy stacks. And I think he turns that whole organization around, at least when it comes to playing on server. I've had a couple back and forths with him. It seems like he has his head on his shoulders within regards to content, but he's also smart enough to just hire somebody else to run that for him. You know what I'm saying? Like he can delegate. I think that's exactly what Boston needs. I think they should be courting DePay to come over and become, their franchise guy. Because something ain't working.
I think
this is not chat. This is not about if DK would say yes. You guys are totally missing the point.
This isn't like I don't know that he would say yes.
Yeah. That he would never. Like there's
no, I don't think anybody would.
There's nothing attractive about that entire situation.
Not in the
Neither
slightest.
monetarily, the challenge is worth it.
But that's the type of person that I think, not to hijack this in terms of like just pooping on Boston, but I think that's the type of character that they need to be at the top. That's not necessarily saying that Mineral needs to go. I'm just saying you need somebody with an eye. And so far, it's not necessarily been what Boston has
I believe the
right
Uprising, though, believe that they have that.
Oh, sure. Totally.
In Huck, the person who's making those personnel decisions. And I worry a lot about, and I don't know Huck. I don't want to like project anything about based on what I've seen on the internet. I don't want to do that, but I would be very interested to see how a strong-minded, delegatory head coach / co-GM like DPay would work with a very strong-willed, strong-headed Huck, who is, I think, is very smart, and I think does exhibit a lot of, like, Joe, what you're saying is like what should hypothetically make a team successful in Boston, just maybe not to the level, or maybe there's just not enough reasonable investment. It's a little bit asking a team too much to go from, grab a bunch of dirt and turn it into diamonds. Like
100%.
You still got to put the pressure on, kind of thing. They don't have the resources to do that. I don't know, but I just I would be very I agree. That's exactly what I would look for in a Boston Uprising head coach, or that's what I would
That's the
call on
essence.
Mineral to kind of step up and do and empower him to make more of those decisions.
100%. But is he allowed to? That was my 100% question. Can he do that within that system? I don't know.
And I was gonna say I don't necessarily want to put Mineral under the bus for this either.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, your record is always going to be a reflection of you as a coach.
Sure. Unfortunately,
it's kind of the thing you sign up for, right?
Yeah.
And everybody there knows that, and so obviously Mineral hasn't had the best start to that, but it's very difficult to go, well, it's because Mineral can't delegate. Mineral can't, like, look at the Outlaws last year, and we had kind of similar conversations where they were restricted in what they could do with their rosters.
Totally.
Because of obviously Infinite Esports, that whole thing being bought out and going bankrupt and trying to sell the team and slashed budgets, all that kind of stuff. And so I'd love to see it. I think I do think Mineral is probably capable of doing that. I wonder if he's empowered to.
Yes, that 100%.
I think, like we talked about packing a little bit. I think
packing, another great shout. Very similar.
Yes, that's the destination. Honestly, like, if those transfers, and once again, I actually no idea here. Like, that's not the part of information I was disclosed. But if that DC Inside leak is actually true, and they are still not successful with that roster, then just knock on packing store. Just do it. Like,
because you need to turn it around. Like, this isn't good for anybody. This isn't good for business. I said what I said, 2-3 shows ago, in kind of a slap in the face attempt to go, hey guys, like, this is not good for anybody. This is not good for business, period. It's not good for their business. Think the Craft Group enjoys the investment that they've gotten so far? Probably not. So how do you turn that around?
So let's go down that for a second. So what do you mean enjoys the investment? Based off of what? Jersey sales?
Just performance.
Just purely on record.
In terms of what that brand is.
Do you think?
I mean, it wasn't terrible in season 1. I think they still 100%. Hamster from.
I can't debate that, right?
We probably can't ride season. Yeah, we probably can't ride off of season 1 forever, right? Even if we can be like, still like, well, yeah, well, they still have. I totally agree in the sense that season 1 Boston Uprising is not how you want to build your franchise name. For more than one reason, if we're being honest, which we're not even talking about all the drama that came out this week with Lufin. I didn't put that in the show notes, and I don't think that we're going to talk about it at all.
Nope.
But you can just Google it.
Not good.
Figure it out. They haven't had the best of luck in that regards either. But at the same time, I do think that the Boston Uprising is a long-term numbers game team. And I think that they don't, I don't want to say they don't care if they win or lose, as long as they are hitting their very conservative, we'll just call them revenue goals, but that can mean all sorts of different things, from merch and ticket sales and other things, but we'll just overall revenue. I don't think that as long as their record or brand is strong enough to pull that in, I don't think that they are worried about performance.
100%. 100%. But what I'm necessarily getting at is that if we're going to take, let's say, branding and performance and say that they're at least correlative to one another, say, like, if you perform well, usually your brand, is influenced positively from that. And if your brand's well, it doesn't necessarily, reversely correlate, but, follow me here. Usually teams would do one or the other. It feels like some teams do both and they're really great at both. That's fantastic. And that's, teams that you really want around. It seems like Boston don't do either.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't feel, I don't feel strongly about the Uprising as a brand. And it's not to say that, people from, that area don't.
It's so hard to evaluate because we don't
100%.
know the numbers.
This is a complete feeling argument for me.
It's like, a feeling. It's knowing roughly. There are like algorithms out there that you can generally tie like social media to, like engagement into a fan base, and like there is stuff out there, and if you know how to find them, like you can apply them. It's not a perfect 1-to-1, so you obviously have a larger than comfortable margin of error there.
I think one thing that people didn't understand about the argument of like season 1 Boston shooting that system some bail is that it shoots Huck bail. Like if I'm the ownership group, I'm looking at season 1. I'm looking at what my team spent in relationship to the other teams in the league, how well it performed, and say that is a huge dub. Sure. And then I look at season 2 and go like, this guy that delivered me like a great season now had a bad season. That is not necessarily the we don't necessarily know what needs to happen, and we know we don't want to spend much. So we look at the numbers of like the economic numbers, and then we also, of course, have to consider success in some regard. And the one remaining factor is Huck with his system. Yes. And that's why, I think as an owner, you shoot a guy like this some bail. And then eventually, if season 3 is also a disappointment, then you reconsider. And then you get someone in who maybe has a fresh take on the system for a team that has to run economically. Not sure if it has to, if that is just 100%. Huck's belief, and he theoretically could have, that's all speculation, of course, right? But at some point you got to say the system Huck has to move elsewhere.
Well, and there's also a point from Habulous in chat that you could argue, oh my god, why can't I think of Krusty was responsible for the players and results of season 1, and then went to Shock in season 2,
and they let that person go.
Repeated that.
That's not good.
Yeah. No,
and I agree. If you're looking at
that insight,
100%, right?
That
it's
perfect
hindsight.
clarity as
it's 100%. I take that. Yeah. I know that's complete hindsight. 100%.
Yeah.
I've always loved the I want to say it's traditional sports analogy of getting somebody out a season early than a season late, because I'm reading the tea leaves, my third eye is open, the Kundalini energy is flowing wherever. And I see teams wanting to play for contenders, strong contenders teams, rather than playing in the Overwatch League for the Boston Uprising. I see that brand tanking socially over and over and over. Why do I, as a player, as a rookie, I just turned 18, I'm a hot prospect. Why do I want to get paid very little to go play for this team that's historically been horrible?
Dude, that's the problem is there's a second boy for that market in town. It's the LA Valiant, and they're doing way better.
100%. So why don't I just
same
go
amount
to
of resources? There's no reason.
Yeah. Why would I go to Boston? I'd rather play for the LA Valiant's contenders team. They don't have one, obviously. That's the joke. But I'd rather play for a team with a system that works rather than a team with a system that is flawed. Yeah. Let's say. And again, that's not necessarily a shame to Huck. He's probably working with what he has, but something's not working. Something needs to change.
I think people who immediately want to assign the blame to just one thing, I think ultimately miss the point. You can't just it's definitely, you definitely have to put some of it on Huck, and we can list out all the different ways it could be on Huck. You can definitely, put some of it on, who knows, what's, Striker, tried to do with contracts and stuff like that. Why weren't they able to retain the talent from season 1 to season 2? Was it purposeful? Did they decide to flip and they wanted to flip it for a bunch of money in there? That is what makes the most sense. But, was Krusty...
Not necessarily the case, but sure. I see what you're saying.
Was Krusty involved in, maybe they underpaid them and didn't sign them to consecutive years contracts to save money, and Possibly. They lost that whole thing? Maybe Krusty isn't great at drawing up the contracts and being part of that, and he's a great head coach and he's a great there. Maybe that's a piece of it. How much of it is, in investment from the Robert Kraft group, and we still don't know the ultimate franchise goals for Boston Uprising, because I'll tell you something, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the ultimate goal of owning a franchise in professional sports is not always winning.
Yep. It's different for a lot of different people.
I mean, of course, everybody wants to win, but every win has a dollar sign attached to it. And you have to say, are we willing to pay that much for that win?
Yep.
Anyways, let's talk about the Chinese teams.
Speaking of color hex,
Chengdu. Chung did it.
They sure Chung did.
Chengdu, I would say largely Chung did it. Wow.
Chengdu on them teams.
So Chengdu did lose 3-2 to Chengdu or to Hangzhou, but they then turned around and I can't believe this. They turned around and swept the Shanghai Dragons.
3-0. Not even close.
3-0. It wasn't close.
No, wasn't.
Joe, tell us about...
As much as I would love to parade around and yell, I told you so, I told you so. Again, I think this is a direct result of hero pools. I think I will take the W on the fact that Chengdu was built for this. And I think most people now agree with me that this team is great at chaos. They're great at playing in a storm. They pull you into that storm and they say, answer this question. Oh, you can't, you lose. That was exactly what the Shanghai game was. Answer Farah. You can't? Okay, you lose. Next. They're speed dating these teams. Next. No, you don't like dogs. Next. You're out.
Yeah.
Spark, on the other hand, had an answer. They forced them to play dive. Also has to do with maps. Again, like strategic credit where strategic credit's due. Spark had a better read on answering Chengdu's questions. Shanghai completely looked lost. And now I'm coming for you, Moon.
Yeah.
You screwed around with Team CC. Playing Ash. You put Bunny on Ash. Come on. Really?
Word.
You put Custa on the bench. What was it? Was it Custa on the bench because he was too good?
Yep.
What?
Keep going.
What's going on? Why?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
And then you feel fearless, just like to meme in map 1. It's just like so cocky. Come on.
You can't disrespect people like that. You saw what they did last season. I'm pretty sure they did it to your team last season. What's going on? This ain't good. You have a team that's too good to play around like that. Get it together. That's disappointing. That match was disappointing. Not in the way that Chengdu won, but how Shanghai played. That was not the team I was promised.
Just adding ad libs to this stomping.
I was promised sleep. I was promised. Okay. I mean, also, all Chinese teams end up 1-1.
Yeah.
This week, which is pretty interesting.
It's the most Chinese Overwatch thing possible, right? Like everybody trades with everybody. Nobody knows why. We're just juggling here, boys. Yeah. T1W is apparently doing good for all my Chinese Overwatch contenders fans. I don't know what they're doing, but apparently they're winning some games.
Yeah.
The world is going crazy.
It's been kind of crazy. So what about Chengdu? I think ultimately overperformed, I would say, this week, like relatively, in the sense that they sweep Shanghai.
Sorta, yeah.
Barely lose to Hangzhou. You've also got Shanghai, who sweeps Guangzhou and then gets swept by Chengdu. How did you feel like Shanghai looked? Because this is a team that people largely shoot into that 5th or 6th place slot. Yeah.
To their credit, like they probably should have, but after this week, I don't know. Stuff's dire out here for Shanghai. I will say that I didn't catch everything from Guangzhou, Shanghai, but I did. Something that did stick out to me was how dominant Shanghai was after the first control sub map, because that first map was rough. Guangzhou convincingly took that sub map, and then it was Shanghai. So I don't know if this is a starting problem. I don't know if it's, they're really good at adaptation, but that doesn't necessarily jive with how they looked against Chengdu. Something's not clicking with Shanghai. It could just be hero pools. They might have been that team that decided, hey, you know what? I have no idea what's going on in these 3 weeks down. Let's just try to play with some random bands and not necessarily practice this, because we might be able to get an edge here. They could have been that team. I have not a clue. It's hard to tell. But all I know is they didn't look great. Guangzhou in general, that should be a Shanghai victory. They beat the team they should have. Unfortunately, they lost to the Cheesers. So
yeah, fair.
My favorite comment or tweets this week was someone, and I'm sorry for forgetting who it was because I should be knowing that person, but someone going, now I know what Nero Overwatch meant when he said Shanghai is as good as San Francisco Shock. Laugh. Like, that was, I enjoyed myself there. Like, it's just disappointing. I was so like, Chengdu, do your thing, girl. It just like slay, right? But like, please, dude, please, Shanghai, bring it back, bro. Can we? I was prepared for another super team. Please, please deliver.
They get one.
Yeah,
you get your one.
They get one. It was their first match of the season.
Let me raise you one. Let me raise you one. Ready?
Okay.
Where's Vancouver going? Any guesses? Any guesses on where they're relocating to?
South Korea.
South Korea.
Right.
Seoul.
Let's just say New York decides to relocate to. Where are they going?
Mm-hmm. South Korea.
How stacked is that region?
Yeah.
Sup, London? What up, bro? London? And if Shanghai doesn't turn it around, good luck. They're gonna get chucked off they're gonna get chucked off the steel cage in the Pacific region. If they get moved to the Pacific region and they're this strong, and Chengdu's just over here just red deck winning everybody.
Yep.
Just like playing 3 minions on turn 1 and go, oh, you can't deal with it. Haha, you lose. What are you gonna do? Shanghai. Not necessarily looking top tier anymore, are you? So get it together. Because the people, the good teams are coming. If they're relocating to South Korea and they get moved to PAC, get in for some trouble.
It's like Chinese contenders where a few of the like mid to bottom South Korea teams snuck down to Chinese contenders.
Yeah.
Except now there's going to be like 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Not looking good. Not a good showing for a region that might get an influx of talent all of a sudden. So I don't know.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
For real.
Chinese
It's going to be a
teams.
bloodbath in PAC.
Oh, God. All right. Who else haven't we really discussed? I mean, trying to think here.
Toronto looked okay. Boston. We already kind of talked about Boston.
I mean, more from the Chinese teams, I think, more than anything. Nothing else really stands out.
Old man strength? Do we want to go on an old man strength? Godsby out here still showing he's got gas in the tank, looking like a little bird ring. God bless him. God bless him.
I hope he can keep it up.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't he didn't splurge the last.
I'm getting real close to putting him like bottom of like first ballot. Like he's getting close. Not the greatest, but somehow able to like just survive.
Cognitive dissonance, just like vibrating in my brain right now. You're not wrong, but I'm not ready for it.
No, I'm not ready for it either, but he's getting close. There's a lot of like old heads that have retired that, looked good sometimes, not looked good. This kid retires after the season after putting up some good numbers with Spark. I can't be mad at
He's a Hall of Famer. I'll give you that. Like, he ought to be Hall of Fame. He won
at least bottom of the card, at least in contenders and for the Hall of Fame, right? He's in the discussion. Was GOATS bad? It sure was. Past that point, if we just kind of like, separate that from the rest of his career, mostly positive, mostly very positive. And so far, from what he's shown on Spark, looks great to me.
The way he whipped that bomb onto Diana against Chengdu in the last clutch moments. He had me there.
Yeah.
He had me there.
Yep.
That was.
Well, that's our preview then, or our recap. Sorry. We'll call it there. That feels good. Godsby.
Feels good.
Godsby Hall of Famer. I can end on that. I feel okay.
There we go.
ending on that one. We should. Do we want to take a second and talk about the production from this past weekend?
God bless them. I know they try. I know it's hard. Chat. Don't berate them.
Settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not paying for Overwatch League, by the way.
It's
just
hard.
so you know.
Guys, they're doing it from home.
This isn't something owed to you.
I get it. You can still criticize. I think that's very fair. But, let's take it with a grain of salt. It is a weird time to be doing any of this.
Probably not a workflow that they've
imagined
having to be.
Yes. No one's prepared for this. It is all fly by the seat. And to a point, yeah, you could criticize Blizzard and say that that's been kind of an MO for a long time. And it's just kind of like breaking now. But they're doing the best they can. They're I know for a genuine fact they are performing as best as the situation allows for them to. I know it's hard to watch. Don't get me wrong. I'm frustrated too. The stream has crashed a number of times. This is a time in everybody's lives at the moment that's living through this absolute weird crisis. Patience is a virtue. Just breathe. It'll be okay. We'll all check out the VOD.
They did steal the TCP 3 heads format. It's true.
I think that was innovated long ago, let's say.
Yeah. It was interesting. Like it sucks because there's so many outside factors now, right? When you're dealing with like multiple teams, multiple different servers. You've got production likely in one place. I'm guessing there are RMTPing to the desk and to production. And like they're managing, like there's a lot going on there to manage.
Yes. A lot of moving parts.
We worked on like for weeks, if not months, at Broadcast GG, like figuring out how all the tech would work.
Yep.
And and that's when you can just you just have to worry about an observer feed and then the casters in a call kind of thing. So it gets really complicated really quick. And if it's not something that you're planning on doing, and you have to make that. And like a lot of these people are like former professional producers kind of things. Like they're used to being there in person. Now imagine having to help troubleshoot. Like even then, I don't think it was like Uber going out the left-hand side thing. I'm pretty sure that was a production thing. But like a really obscure OBS thing, because what producers typically do is they pan left and right to send monitor feeds, feeds, but he was sending a stereo feed, and so it only they didn't switch it to mono after, and that caused the issue. And poor Uber is trying to troubleshoot it on his end. That's why sure Mr. X can't hear it.
Yep.
So
they're trying, guys. Trust me that they're trying. I get the frustration. Let's just breathe, have some patience. We'll get through this. It'll get better, I promise.
I'm actually amazed that with everyone being at home, that internet infrastructure is actually holding up as well as they are. I was fully expecting to sit here, the 56K modem days, just
having the JPEG images load up and
especially in the moments where you really need them to load more quickly.
Yeah,
you understand what?
Well, it's also
all right. Get us out of here.
There's also the one too where
good lord,
I saw something on Reddit the other day where it's in the United States, most internet providers have data caps of 1 terabyte, and they've just been, and they're like, it's to preserve the integrity of the grid because we don't have the capacity. So people who need the more capacity, they could pay for it. And they removed the data caps for everybody. And it's and they use the old the old Maury meme. Turns out that was a lie. And here I am paying an extra $50 like an idiot. Because 3 of these tactical crouch streams take 3/4 of that bandwidth. Every time I call my internet service provider, they're like, "Oh, I see you're paying an extra $50 for a data cap. Do you need it?" I go, "Just look at my usage on my account." I explain this every time. "Oh, you used 8.5 terabytes last month."
Sure did.
I was like, "Yep." Lots of porn.
Okay. You do you. Live your best life.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I don't think you get to talk, Yiska.
All right.
I'm like, this is the most made up or like done together I've looked all week. Like as long as I don't have any camera reliant interviews, like literally Tactical Crouch is keeping me together, like from just being full hobo mode and like just like never doing preparing to be a normal functioning adult.
Good for you. Look at you. Nice little hoodie on there.
There's probably some stains from the food I ate today. Whatever. Wearing the same thing next week or tomorrow.
Getting used to it. Always wake up, always shower, stay clean, deodorant, mints.
Well, you have a marriage to save, right? Like I don't even have
she stinks.
a cat.
She sucks at working from home. She's awful at it.
Damn, shots.
Like, can you not?
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Oh.
She didn't hear that. Good. She didn't hear that. Just like if you guys see like a shoe fly right past my head.
Daggers.
Yeah. Anyway.
Rat bottoms right up in the neck.
Done. And then we'll blame it on production. All right, we're gonna get out of here, chat. Thanks so much for hanging out, by the way. Hope you had a ton of fun. Salsa Boy, thank you for gifting a sub to Volamel. Neuromancer99, thank you for the sub as well. And Copper ZZ, thank you for the sub during the show. No new patrons or 5-star iTunes reviews, but if you want to support the show, there's great ways to do that. First is the free way. Go to iTunes, leave a 5-star iTunes review, and leave a little comment. Doesn't have to be anything, or it can be something long and funny and nice and whatever. But regardless, leave a 5-star iTunes review. We'll thank you on the next episode. Usually takes a couple of days for those to post so that we can see them. So like if you leave a review on Sunday, we might not get it, but we will get to it. I track all of those. Second thing is if you're like, you know what? How can I help support, hanging out and all that kind of stuff? Go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. And you can sign up there. We're coming up on April, which means that game night is going to be coming around soon. Like we're trying to do the game nights earlier rather than later this month because it's a little bit easier with the stay at home in place as far as like scheduling things around. So I think we're going to try and do that. So do that, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Big thank you to our patron producers, Battlecrab Pin Lolshin, Charlie L Audio Compass, Porkchop Sammy, Kasha67, Coochie Kopi, Salsa Boy 91, and Shara. Appreciate you all. And then you can also just subscribe right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/KickedTripod. It's another really great way. We've got some Tactical Crouch emotes. I've actually got Katie doing some drawing ones. We're trying really hard to get partnered on Twitch, and we're really close. We're at like 60, 65 average viewers. And we need 75 before we can start applying. So
Sweet.
Even if you can't be here live, if you just want to AFK on the channel, I don't know if I can ask you for that, honestly. So we'll pretend I didn't ask you for that. But even being here is a huge thing. So we can get some more of those cool emotes, and we'll get those designed and hopefully implemented as soon as possible. All right, that's it for me. Yiska, shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
As always, GG Recon. It's interesting. Like last week had a piece most of you probably missed because it didn't really do well on Reddit or whatever, but it's interesting like how certain content vibes with different demographics. Some I'll experiment a little bit with that. I'm not sure how much love I'll be able to give Overwatch, even though I have one cool thing in the works with a coach interview, and otherwise you'll probably find me like trying to prepare for Valorant, give some shoulder content towards that development, and then otherwise just check out GG Recon.
Sweet. Joe, what about you, man?
As always, find me on all the socials at Volamel. That's Volamel. YouTube probably this week. Hopefully, if the schedule allows it, gonna do predictions, ranking the teams. Hopefully, again, was trying to do it last week, but the schedule came out way too late. And then go check out a review, a recap of all of the nonsense that went into Shanghai winning their first ever match on their 43rd attempt. I know there are some new OWL fans out there, so if you want a review of that story, go check out GG Recon for that. And yeah, same here, just getting ready, getting prepped, getting mentally prepared for Valorant, and yeah, a lot of history to come. A lot of history to review with Overwatch. Not going anywhere just yet. Can't get rid of me. And yeah, just same as always. Content's a flowing.
Yeah. As for me, same thing everywhere at KickedTripod, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. That's also where the shows are posted. So make sure to follow and subscribe or whatever the platform has you doing there. Also looking forward to Valiant. Also hoping to be making some content around that. Also hope to have something to announce to you all soon regarding that. But for right now, nothing official to announce just yet. All right, that's going to do it. Chat, thanks again for hanging out. We're going to be back with a brief post show just to hang out, say hi, and then Yiska let out all the juice. And we'll get out of here. All right. See you next time.
Bye.